it is very clear that the former president was invited in his personal capacity, as you said, by a family of one of the service members who was killed about 2 years ago during the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
It was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago to the day on August 26th.
Yes, 3 years ago.
Okay, so let's talk about this Arlington National Cemetery situation with Trump. It's an unfortunate situation to talk about, but the latest piece of propaganda that the left-wing media tried to run has collapsed, has completely failed. So they always come up with some BS, whether it's phony charges trying to arrest Trump, whether it's Kamala Harris at the DNC outright lying, making stuff up about Trump's policies, or whether it's about Trump and his stance with military and with other people. So we can go back years and look at situations where they claim he was defending KKK members with the good people on both sides thing, with a journalist who was handicapped or something like that. That situation, the suckers and losers quote. The bloodbath that happened, a couple months ago when he was talking about the auto industry, there's going to be an economic bloodbath. And these fools ran the propaganda to their NPCs saying Trump was going to run a literal bloodbath, commit genocide if he didn't win the election. And all of that stuff completely failed. None of that propaganda worked. So the latest piece is to lie on Trump. Trump was invited and went to the Arlington National Cemetery to honor the Marines who died, unfortunately unnecessary, 3 years ago because of Biden's botched withdrawal, completely horrific withdrawal. So he went there with the families, and the media tried to make a fuss about it. Reports coming out talking about Trump's campaign forced their way into a certain section so they can get a photo op. It was a campaign event, and it was completely disrespectful. People are upset. And they even came out and said the army is against Trump and all of that. And Trump came out and gave his account of the story. Then CBS ran some news to counter what Trump says. Let's take a look.
You may have heard there was an incident during Donald Trump's Monday visit to Arlington Cemetery. What distinguishes this from other Trump incidents is that the rules at the center of the story are particular.
The Army is now directly contradicting the Trump campaign's account of what happened on Monday. In a statement released today, the Army says that a female staffer was, quote, abruptly pushed aside by members of the Trump campaign team. That directly contradicts the campaign claim that no physical altercation occurred. The Army says the staffer did file a report with the military police, but is deciding not to press charges. According to the Army, the staffer has faced unfair attacks for trying to enforce rules that were given to the Trump campaign ahead of time about filming at the cemetery. Some of those attacks come not only from Trump supporters, but also from the Trump campaign itself, whose communications director claimed that the staffer was, quote, clearly suffering from a mental health episode. The Army's statement, which is rare for them to wade into a political controversy, directly rebukes the Trump campaign and defends the cemetery official, noting that the cemetery staff every year puts on nearly 3,000 public ceremonies like the one on Monday without any incidents.
And Eleanor, tell us about Section 60, which is where this took place, and the rules that are ironclad and longstanding for that section of Arlington National Cemetery.
Yeah, well, federal law prohibits filming and photography throughout the cemetery related to campaigns and any partisan activity. But officials are particularly sensitive about Section 60, and that's for good reason. Section 60 is considered, and when you go, feels like sacred ground. That's because, as you noted, that's where the veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan are buried and are still regularly visited by their immediate family members, their parents, their siblings, their spouses, their kids. And that's why the cemetery has very strict rules about filming there. Now, some family members of victims killed in the Abbey Gate bombing did invite former President Trump, and for sure it could be an honor to have a former president visit, but there are strict rules in place because there are other families who have loved ones buried there who may grieve differently. We heard from one of those families last night in a statement from Master Sergeant Andrew Marcasano's family said that they learn from Arlington that the Trump campaign did not adhere to the rules, and that, quote, they hope that those visiting this sacred site understand that these were real people who sacrificed their lives for freedom.
Eleanor Watson.
The plan here is to make Trump look bad. Oh, he hates the military. He hates black people. He hates handicapped people. He's just an evil person, and you shouldn't vote for him at all. You should vote for our communist, Kamala Harris. But immediately after that, Gold Star family members, the people who actually invited him, the people whose family members died because of that botched Afghanistan withdrawal, they came out swinging, defending Trump, and even came out against the left-wing media. So let's look at a couple of them talking about it.
But the way it's been framed, and you were at this event, obviously, it's been framed as though this were a very political event. It seems there are some who are sort of making it seem that way, that for Trump, it was political and the way that it was photographed. Talk a little bit about the event and from your purview, what you felt was happening with his presence there.
It was beautiful and respectful. We made every effort. We worked with Arlington and the president's team to make every effort to make sure there was as few distractions or disruptions at the cemetery as possible. We even considered school groups that were coming through and made sure that, you know, our movement didn't disrupt any of those activities. It was very respectful, very much what we're hoping for our heroes, for our kids, is that they get the respect and the honor that they died earning. It wasn't a political event. He didn't talk about himself or his campaign there was no talk about him. He listened to our families tell stories about our loved ones. But we had permission from Arlington. We crossed all our T's and dotted our I's. We respect Arlington just as much as everybody else. Our loved ones are buried there. That's a place I go to be with Nicole. We would never intentionally disrespect or encourage disrespect.
What is your response to Vice President Harris saying that Donald Trump used the death of your son to disrespect sacred ground?
Absolutely hypocritical. Like you said, good to see you again, by the way. But we invited President Trump to be there. The families that were in Arlington asked him to bring his filming crew to capture the moment. My understanding is they didn't want people on their phones. They wanted them to be in the moment and be present. And Trump was gracious enough to be there, for one, which I thought was an absolutely beautiful thing. I got to watch later that day on Monday, and it made me proud that he was there representing all 13 kids. But more importantly, I got to see Darren Hoover and I got to see Kelly Barnett standing behind President Trump before he laid the wreath.
Okay, so now we're going to get into Tulsi Gabbard. She went on CNN to talk about Kamala Harris. You know, Tulsi Gabbard is on Trump's team. Now she's advising Trump, and she's going to be on a transition team when he wins. So she sat down with propagandist Dana Bash, the same one who gave that softball campaign ad interview to Kamala Harris. So she did an interview with Dana Bash and took her down because Dana Bash is still trying to run his propaganda about Trump hating veterans, Trump disrespecting dead soldiers. This is what the Democrats do. They're so low, they're so desperate that they will sink to using dead soldiers in order to push their agenda of making Trump look bad. Instead of letting these men and women rest in peace, they will stomp on their graves, drag them out to try to make Trump look bad. But this isn't the first time they've done this. Every time children die, they use the bodies. They stand on the graves of dead children in order to push anti-gun policies. They do it with dead black men too. When they get killed by police, they'll come out to stir up racism in the country. They need the blood of dead black men. These Democrats are low. But let's take a look at Tulsi and this propagandist.
On to what is happening with regard to controversy after the former president visited Arlington National Cemetery this week. His campaign took photos and video of him in Section 60, where veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are buried, used it in a campaign video. The Army also says that Trump staffers abruptly pushed aside a cemetery official who tried to enforce Arlington's rules prohibiting political activities. I know you were with Trump at least earlier in that day at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Did you witness the altercation at Section 60?
I was there from the beginning with the laying of the wreaths with the family members, the Gold Star family members, and some of the survivors of that terrorist attack in that disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. I was with them at Section 60, and what I saw was a very grave and somber remembrance and honoring of those lives that were lost. And I saw President Trump spending time at the invitation of these Gold Star families with them. He was there for a few hours. I did not see or hear about any kind of altercation until something came out in the news later on. The families were there grieving.
This whole thing, it sounds like some people are making something up. Just like when Trump was in Europe, that whole suckers and losers. He called the dead soldiers from World War II suckers and losers. And they've been pushing that BS for years now. And here we go again. It sounds like after all of these witnesses come out and make their statements, after the Gold Star family members have come out and made their statements and attacked Kamala them actually, and the media, it sounds like somebody made some shit up. But they're trying their best to make it look like Trump hates the military when we know that Biden, who was checking his fucking watch as these soldiers, these Marines, as their bodies were being brought back, we know he doesn't give a damn about the soldiers. During the debate, he lied, talking about nobody died on his watch because he forgot about them. They're irrelevant to him. These Gold Star family members asked Kamala to show up. She ignored them. But they're trying their best to make it seem like they love the military and Trump hates the military. Complete gaslighting, and it's not working at all.
Alongside President Trump, and it was a very special moment to really remember their names, remember their memories, and understand the true cost of war and the consequences of the decisions that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden made in the execution of that withdrawal.
Yeah, and it is very clear that the former president was invited in his personal capacity, as you said, by a family of one of the service members who was killed about 2 years ago during the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
It was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years
Thank
ago
you. Thank
to
you
the
for
day
correcting
on
me.
August 26th.
Yes, 3 years ago.
Wow, man. Oh, man. These fucking propagandists, man. They sit here and try their best. Look at her. First of all, she's sitting here stuttering. She doesn't know what to say because her lie's not working. And she has no idea. She doesn't know what happened, who these people are, because she doesn't care. All she cares about is Orange Man bad and pushing left-wing propaganda.
The question is about the federal law and Arlington's rules that prohibit partisan or political activities at national cemeteries. And the military and also other members of other families who are buried right near there are upset about the campaign filming it and posting the video online. Do you believe that was appropriate?
You know, I checked with the campaign on this question, and they have exchanges with the officials at Arlington Cemetery. They were approved to bring a camera there to document this historic and momentous day that should not be forgotten by any American. And to have a former president there and joining these Gold Star families, I know President Trump wanted to share that with others, especially given the fact that President Biden and Harris, I heard, were invited by some of these family members. They not only didn't come, they didn't even respond to that invitation. And now to have Kamala Harris put this statement out yesterday saying that she stands with these families, she stands with the military and with veterans, you only have to look at the response that came from the Gold Star families of these 13 service members of how offended.
Man, we can go through history, the presidential history, and we have so many photo ops, Obama, Biden, Bush, so many photo ops of presidents going to the cemetery. And when Trump goes, there's a problem. Well, this Gold Star family invited you, but way in the background, you can see somebody else's tombstone, and their family didn't invite you, so you have no right to be here. You have no right to take pictures, anything. You're a terrible person. They're reaching. They're so desperate because their candidate is so weak, so sorry. They have to resort to this stuff, and it's just embarrassing.
They were by that statement, given she has not made any effort, not on that 3rd anniversary or any other time, to call them directly to offer her condolences and even apologies for their decisions that led to the loss of their loved ones.
Do you think that the campaign will release that communication that you're talking about? Because the Army is saying very clearly that they broke the rules because it was clearly put out online, pictures, video, meant as a part of his campaign.
I thought they already had. I was informed that they had come to an agreement. They could bring a camera there. And as far as I know, in the public statements I've seen from the Army, is that the matter is closed.
I think the matter is closed about the altercation, alleged altercation, with the idea.
All right, Dana Bash, you lose. That's enough of that, man. So, we've seen all the videos, the testimony from the Gold Star families. We've heard from both sides, and all CNN is doing here is playing the advocate for the Democrat Party, trying their best to make Trump look bad. Old Trump, he started some altercation, tried to beat up somebody at the National Cemetery. He's such a terrible person. Oh, he went there and disgraced the tombs. You talking about the place? He went to the place where Kamala Harris refused to go. The families invited her, but she completely ignored them. They're trying their best. They're reaching, but they got nothing, man. So let me know what you think. Leave me your thoughts below. Share the video. Thanks for watching.